Welcome into a brand new week, brand new edition of the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. It's Tuesday, so it means it's time to eat. It's sports buffet time with David Glenn from the North Carolina Sports Network, and we had a lot of stuff going on over the past 7 days, got a lot of stuff going on over the next 7. We'll try to hit all the hot spots here on your lunch break, so go ahead and open up your Lunchables. Let's get ready to rock and roll. It's the Desmond Johnson Show. Let's hit it.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been #1, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whack. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches. I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And again, welcome into the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Make sure you rate and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find things such as Believe in Hills Hoops. You can find the Desmond Johnson Show and the Keep Pounding Podcast Network. Just go over to youtube.com/at Tobacco Road Sports Radio. North Carolina Sports Network's David Glenn in the house with me here on a Tuesday. And I love to do Sports Buffet with DG to get his opinion on pretty much everything. It was a loaded weekend. We had Super Bowl over the past weekend. We had Carolina Duke and another instant classic. But I want to start off with last night. The Charlotte Hornets and the Detroit Pistons had themselves a game, and they also had themselves a little brawl. The Hornets and the Pistons ended up winning the game, so it broke the win streak for the Hornets. They had won 9 straight games going into this matchup, and a fight broke out between Jalen Duren and Moussa Diabate. The Pistons won 110-104, so it does snap that 9-game win streak. However, the Hornets are 9-1 in their past 10 games. They've moved up into the playoff consideration. I think they're in the 10th seed right now. The national media is caught on to the Hornets. And your thoughts on what they're doing right now, DG, and the 4 players that are involved. And you can find I was going to pull up the video, but the 4 players involved were Jalen Duren, Moussa Diabate from the Hornets. You also had Miles Bridges involved in it, and Isaiah Stewart came off the bench actually and charged Miles Bridges, so they're thinking he's probably going to get the majority of the game suspended. But thoughts on Moussa and Miles involved in this? I think Duren kind of started this. Looking at the video, I might try to pull it while we're sitting here, but thoughts on that game last night and the brawl and the Hornets win streak leading up to last night.
Yeah, the good news is the Charlotte Hornets matter. And that has not been the case very often since the turn of the century, really. You and I talked on a recent show about how when the Hornets, way back in their early stages, got a couple of high draft picks right in the form of Grandmama Larry Johnson and also Alonzo Mourning, guess what? In the aftermath of making that wise use of those high first-round picks, the Hornets were relevant. The Hornets regularly made the playoffs. They had all-star caliber players. They had not only playoff teams, but teams capable of winning, at least in the early rounds. In the playoffs.
There, yeah. Turn with the right hand to the face.
It's a whole new world now because they got a couple of picks right.
He knew it, too. He's trying to get away this year. These are grown men.
Regarding that fight, I do think Miles Bridges has his hands full with the league office because whereas the original 2 combatants are going to get in trouble. As you mentioned, the Detroit player came off the bench. That's a big no-no.
Yeah,
but Miles was not directly involved and kind of went after a guy who was being held back by one of his teammates. I think it was Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
So Miles is in some trouble. But as you pointed out a minute ago, the Hornets, if the playoffs started today, would be barely in. And that just makes it more fun. 9 out of your last 10 wins is a pretty good track record, and it's just a matter of whether they can sustain it. Now they have another former Carolina player in the rotation, so that'll be fun. Duke guy, Carolina guy, etc. But it's just neat to see a little bit of buzz around the Hornets after mostly silence for a couple of decades.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about that because when I saw you last, it was Tuesday. The trade deadline was last Thursday, and between that time, Kobe White gets traded from the Bulls to the Charlotte Hornets. Kobe White is the highest scoring high school basketball player of all time in the state of North Carolina. And of course, we saw him for a year at North Carolina a couple years back before he got drafted in the first round as a lottery pick. He gets to come back home. My first experience with Kobe White, there's a charity game called it's not the Joseph Level Classic. It was his son. He passed away. He was playing basketball in high school, and he passed away on the court. And they started doing this charity game for him afterwards. He was like a 4-star prospect, and they usually do it like a Dudley High School. And usually it's like a lot of all-stars from North Carolina, like high school, that come in and play. And this was like 2018, I believe. And I was there to broadcast it. B-Dot was one of the coaches of one of the all-star teams, and Kobe White was one of the players. Never seen him before. Little 6'1" kid, big afro. Yeah. And by the end of the game, he had 40 points. And I was like, I was calling the game, and I was like, how did he get 40 points in this game? It was an all-star game. And he was just so fluid. So to have him behind LaMelo now, I think was great, because if LaMelo gets hurt, which we all know LaMelo Ball's, injury history, if that happens, you can put Kobe White right there in the starting lineup and not really miss a whole lot of a beat, in my opinion. So the starting, we'll find out here because some of these people are going to get suspended, but the starting lineup of Moussa Diabate, Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball, Conca and Brandon Miller are now 15-2, if I'm not mistaken, when they play together. So this seems like enough of a track record to be like, okay, these Hornets, they were the best team in the NBA the past 30 days, and they beat some teams. They beat the Spurs. They beat a couple of teams in there. So we'll see about the Hornets. And we'll see as suspensions get laid down. I'm not sure I don't think they've done anything like that yet. So I might have an update for that later on in the week in terms of who gets what suspension wise, but everybody's getting suspended. So we just don't know how much and who's going to get what. Let's move over to Super Bowl 60. Of course, the Seahawks defeated the Patriots. I was more interested. For starters, I thought the game was kind of boring until like towards the end. It was real defensive slugfest kind of type deal. But I noticed in the pregame or at the starting lineups as they're announcing them, as Drake Maye is saying himself, he doesn't say University of North Carolina. He says Myers Park High School. And it made me think of conversations we had in terms of Drake Maye, the university, Bill Belichick. And I remember you saying that that Belichick and company had like barred Patriots scouts from coming to watch or something to that effect over the course of this year. It's been very contentious, the thing, but it's crazy to me. Is there another quarterback in North Carolina history that you would say has had more success at the pro level than Drake Maye, even though he's only played 2 years?
Meaning the University of North Carolina?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at it from the UNC perspective, it's not even close. Keep in mind, the first something like 80 years of NFL football history, Carolina did not have a single starting quarterback in 80 years. Now, more recently, remember TJ Yates started for a while. Sam Howell started for a while. Mitch Trubisky was a high draft pick and did start for a while. But to me, there's no doubt about it. Drake Maye is only 2 years into his NFL career, but he's a two-time Pro Bowl honoree. He was second-team All-Pro this year. He was the runner-up to Matthew Stafford in the NFL MVP voting. And if one first-place vote had gone the other way, Drake Maye would have been the NFL MVP. The last Carolina player to do that was Lawrence Taylor in 1986.
Wow.
So he'd be just as remember, Drake Maye was the first ACC football player of the year for the Tar Heels since Lawrence Taylor in 1980. So that's 40-some year gap. He almost did it in terms of NFL MVP. So he's the best Carolina product ever to play quarterback in the NFL. And it's just a matter of he's only 24. So how much is he going to add to his legend at that level?
It's just weird because you would think that the university would be all about promoting the fact that he came from the University of North Carolina. But they've done everything in their power to kind of distance themselves from Drake Maye because he plays for the Patriots. I feel like if he played for the Seahawks,
I think that changed. I think they had internal discussions.
Oh, good.
Around the same time that you brought up the whole weird Patriots aren't allowed on the UNC campus, the scouts. There was an internal discussion at Carolina, the way I understand it, and this is many months ago. From that point on, they were basically like, hey, Bill, you handle the Patriots how you want to handle the Patriots, but UNC's official social media accounts are going to trumpet Drake Maye from
as
the
they should, yeah.
as they should, right? Yeah. Like that program needs as many positive things to rally around as possible. So I do think they resolved that indigestion, whatever it was, because I did see a lot of UNC social media essentially, why not talk about him as a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro and a Super Bowl participant and all those other things, and the greatest NFL quarterback ever produced by UNC? I mean, it would be incredibly dumb for Carolina to have some weird roadblock related to the Belichick Patriots craft weirdness. But I think they got over at least that part of it. We'll see how the whole Patriots scouts on Chapel Hill's campus stuff goes, but the Drake Maye part is fine. And I really, knowing Drake and his family pretty well, I covered his dad when he was the starting quarterback at UNC back in the 1980s. Wonderful family. My guess is that Drake just wanted to shout out Myers Park High School more than it being any kind of a weird UNC phenomenon.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better then, because normally when a player does that, something happened to them at that university where they don't want to give them the credible, the shout out or whatnot. And for it to come from Drake, I was just like, it was the first thing I remember about that Super Bowl. I was like, that's interesting that he just chose to go Myers Park instead of UNC. And I was going to ask you that question in terms of the relationship with Maye and the Carolina football program. Which team do you think is better equipped to return to the Super Bowl after what you just saw this year, the Seahawks or the Patriots?
Man, knowing the NFL, I wouldn't be surprised if neither was back. That's
a great point. Yep.
It's just so hard. I mean, if you have a weak link in the chain, it will be discovered, right? And in the Patriots case, it was a couple of rookie offensive linemen. I mean, Drake Maye was playing with a bad shoulder, and he goes against the number one defense in the NFL, and his line just didn't block for him. I mean, he was sacked 6 times. I'm not saying, all of them were the line's fault. Drake probably should have thrown the ball away once or twice, but they were suffocated. The Patriots were suffocated. There's so many good teams out there. What do we have? 10 head coaching changes in the NFL this year. I mean, who knows? The good news is for both, they're going to be building on firm foundations. But in a league with 53-man rosters, you just don't end up with more than, you can end up with more than half of the same roster. But, we're just not in a world where you return 90% of your players. It doesn't work that way in the NFL. Others are getting better, changes at coordinator. Heck, foreseeing things like Sam Darnold's evolution. How do you forecast those types of things like with a crystal ball? He was a losing quarterback for his first 5 years in the NFL. Yeah. He was not good for the Jets, not good for the Panthers. And, of course, he ultimately becomes a symbol of 2 things. 1, he became a lot better version of himself. But 2, whereas we all know quarterback is the most important position on the field, if you're surrounded by a bad team with the Jets or the Panthers, you're going to get a lesser version of Sam Darnold. And if you're surrounded by a great team, Vikings last year, Seahawks this year, you're going to get a 14-3 version of Sam Darnold. And in this case, a Super Bowl championship. So, it's the same things. Where are the best quarterbacks? But now you have to factor in who has the best depth chart. Seattle had the best defense and the best overall depth chart. And that's why they're the Super Bowl champs.
I believe Seattle and the Los Angeles Rams opened up with the best odds in the NFC to get to the Super Bowl, and the Buffalo Bills over in the AFC opened up with the best odds in our way too early prediction thing here in February. I don't think anybody had Seattle versus New England in the Super Bowl in the preseason going into that season. So to your point, the NFL, man, parity. Everybody is kind of right around 500. A couple are a lot better and a couple a little worse. But David Glenn joined us from the North Carolina Sports Network. And of course, I got to get over to Duke, Carolina. I call it the reverse Austin Rivers game. It was literally the Austin Rivers game in reverse, where Carolina did not lead the entire game until the final shot. They led for 0.4 of a second of this matchup. Thoughts on what you saw Saturday? Like Jay Billis says, it always delivers, and it did. And I had a friend that was asking me before the game, I think the spread was 5.5 or something for Duke. And he was asking me if we should do the over. I was like, absolutely not. Like, I don't care what happens in the game. One team might get up by double digits, but it will shrink back down by the time it gets to towards the end. I can't sit here and tell you who's going to win because it's Duke Carolina, but one team's not going to blow out the other by, a double-digit margin or whatever, although Duke tried in the first half. They were playing really well.
Yeah.
Hubert Davis made some adjustments. I want to talk about the Hubert Davis versus John Shire comparison because I feel like John Shire has been called a better coach. But for what I've seen the past 4 years, there's not a lot of coaches better than Hubert Davis out of a timeout. Like, he is very good at scheming up, getting guys open, and it's usually up to the player to make the play. And the two plays he had schemed up right there where Vassar takes the 3 to tie the game, that wasn't the play. He just decided to shoot the ball. They were getting ready to run the play. And then the actual play that they got it to Seth over in the corner was actually brilliant. The way they ran it with Caleb Wilson kind of being the decoy running down the lane and everyone crashed the paint. Dixon kicks it out to a wide open Seth Tribble. Thoughts on what you saw during that game? Was it everything you expected it to be? And were you surprised that the Tar Heels pulled off the upset?
No, I had picked the Carolina Tar Heels to win that game. And for a long time, that did not look like a very smart pick. I do believe Duke is the better team. And as I said at the time of my pick last week, I believe the Blue Devils will probably win this matchup in Durham. I just believe the Tar Heels would win the matchup in Chapel Hill. And, after trailing for 39 plus minutes, they got that done. But probably the most important takeaway or two for me is in the first half, we all know Cameron Boozer and Caleb Wilson are not only the two best players in the ACC, they're two of the best in the entire country, period.
Yeah.
Meaning as college basketball players. Their NBA futures is a different conversation. But the question was, in the first half, how much would either of those superstars, how much help would they get? Well, guess what? Duke played 8 guys in the first half. And if you went down the list, it was Dame Sarr with good defense and some buckets. It was Isaiah Evans with 9 points in the first half. It was Pat Gongba on defense and the boards and a couple of buckets. It was Caleb Foster with a couple of buckets and some assists. It was Malik Brown with his typically good defense. Caden Boozer hit a 3 in the first half. So Cameron Boozer gets a ton of help. I think everybody but Nick Hamenia, who played in the first half, did something where John Shire could say, man, thanks for helping us, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, beyond Caleb Wilson, who was a star in the first half, Jaron Stevenson started for the Tar Heels, had 0 points at the half. Henry Vessar started, had 0 points at the half. Derek Dixon started, had 0 points at the half. Kyan Evans off the bench, 0 points at the half. I mean, that's almost no help for Caleb Wilson. And guess what? Duke led by 12 points at the break. What happened in the second half? Caleb Wilson got more help by a lot than Cam Boozer did. And the Tar Heels, it ended up being the biggest comeback in the last 25 years for the Tar Heels in that rivalry. I mean, so that's a once a quarter century comeback. And Seth Trimble obviously got his moment in the sun the way others have had in this great rivalry. But without that, it takes a village mentality. I mean, Wilson's the star. Everybody knows that. But if you lean on him too much and the other guys aren't helping enough, the Tar Heels aren't going anywhere of significance. That second half Tar Heel team looked fantastic. And last note on that is the number of times, Des, that a Tar Heel player could have gotten down on himself and then made a great play was off the charts. And that might be a Hubert influence as well. When Seth Trimble was asked to win the game by initiating an offensive possession in those last 2 minutes, Cam Boozer knocked it off of Trimble's leg out of bounds. That was a huge turnover. Instead of sulking, what did the senior do? He turned the page mentally. He played defense. And then when asked to hit the big bucket, he did. Similarly, Derek Dixon had a horrible first half.
Mm-hmm.
Most freshmen in their first rivalry game, if they had a bad first half, they would wilt. They would know how poorly they played, and they would probably drag that into the second half. Instead, what did Dixon do? He made a couple of big buckets, a big 3. He found Trimble on that pass that wasn't even designed to go to Trimble. I mean, and that was after Dixon had a poor possession not too long before that. So there's a resilience factor there, a fiber factor. that I think Hubert Davis deserves some credit for, along with the players, of course. Otherwise, Carolina doesn't have a chance to put together that, double-digit comeback victory.
I understand that, and I said this on Believe in Hills Hoops yesterday. I understand that Cam Boozer is one of the top 4 players in the country, but watching his actual game, it was really the first time I got a chance to watch him for 40 minutes. I've always been in and out of the Duke games this year. So watching him and the way he played, and I know he got in foul trouble early in the first half, so he had to sit for a little bit, but then he didn't get any foul calls for the rest of the game. I said it before. I think I said it to you too. Someone had said it to me, and I couldn't get it out of my head the few times I saw him. And now after I've watched the game, now I really can't get it out of my head. They had told me that Cam Boozer is a more athletic Tyler Hansbrough. And I was like, okay, let me look at this. And then I watched that game. I was like, he plays like Tyler Hansbrough. Like he really has a limited set of like a limited skill set in terms of what he can do. He just does it very well. And I was having this debate with B-Dot and PJ about who would you start an NBA franchise with? Would you start it with Caleb Wilson or would you start it with Cam Boozer? And I say all this, and it feels like Boozer had a bad game. He still finished with like 24 points, 11 rebounds. And, yeah. I mean, so like it's still he's kind of like Hansbrough, where I said he's going to be a good NBA pro, like a 10-year kind of guy. Like he'll be part of a rotation. But could I pick him like first overall and build a team around Cam Boozer? I don't think so. I think his ceiling's actually his dad, like Carlos Boozer. Like it feels like he's not going to be like an elite type player. Caleb Wilson feels like a guy that you could build a whole team around. Like he's the first pick, and then you go get a guard, you go get this, you surround him with it and go, because he does so many different other things. And maybe AJ DeBonsa at BYU and the Peterson kid at Kansas are the two other ones where I'm just like, okay, but this freshman class in general, and you said you just wrote about this, talk about this freshman class nationally in terms of what they've done, because college basketball feels different this year than it did the previous couple of years where it was an older college basketball. And this year it feels like the freshmen have kind of grabbed back the spotlight. You just wrote an article about the freshmen this year. So talk a little bit about
one thing to keep in mind for everybody is there was like a perfect storm of things that made college basketball older for a period of years. We've always had red shirts, which allows guys to kind of, be that 23-year-old senior or whatever. But remember, we had that COVID bonus year, and that allowed everybody to kind of hang around college basketball for an extra year longer. That made college basketball older rather. Well, now that COVID year, all the guys who got to take the extra year of eligibility, that's phased out now. That COVID, all those guys are gone. So it's kind of left the door cracked for what we saw for a while when true freshmen more often impacted this league. 1 year ago, Des, if you and I had a conversation about how many freshmen deserved consideration just in the ACC for the 15-man All-ACC team, the answer was 2. Yeah. It was Cooper Flagg and Con Knipple. Yeah. That's it. There was not a single other freshman in this league that deserved consideration, much less a slot on that 15, first, second, third team All-ACC.
Moloch got drafted like top 10, but that was more potential.
Moloch, right? As an NBA prospect, yes, but he was nowhere near the top 15 in the ACC. He was all freshmen in the ACC. But last year, you had a hard time finding 5 or 6 freshmen that you thought were good candidates for the all-freshman team just in the ACC. Well, this year, it's, yes, of course, Cam Boozer. It's, of course, Caleb Wilson. Virginia has a freshman named Tess DeRitter who's going to be all ACC. He's a phenomenal forward. He is 23 really years old.
Yeah, he's an old man. Yeah,
but that's how the rules work now, right? There's revenue sharing and NIL. A lot of these European guys are saying, "Wow, I'm going to consider American basketball in a way I hadn't in the past." The Ibuka Okori kid from Stanford is an all ACC player. Yep. He's one of the top 10 freshmen in America. You mentioned Peterson, DeBansa. The list goes on and on. It's an incredible freshman class. And I think in my article at ncsportsnetwork.com earlier today, we listed 20 different freshmen that either have significant roles on a prominent ACC team or maybe are putting up big numbers on a second-tier ACC team. So either individually they're excelling or they're playing a big role like the guys we mentioned on a top half of the ACC team that might make the NCAA tournament. So it is a definite changing of the way college basketball has been, and definitely the way the ACC has been. Freshmen are just a much bigger part of this year's narrative.
Tonight, Carolina taking on Miami on on the road, if I'm not mistaken. I think they had to go down to Miami to play this game. 7:00 tip-off on ACC Network. Here on Tobacco Road, we've been out for 2 weeks because of the snow and ice and everything else. So we have a glut of high school basketball games that need to be made up. So we do have East Forsyth, West Forsyth tonight, starting at 6. And we also have Glenn doubleheader tonight at 6 too. You can hear both of those on Tobacco Road Sports Radio later on tonight, the girls and the boys. In terms of Carolina tonight, what do they need to do to avoid the letdown after winning a game like that? In the Duke Carolina rivalry, how do they avoid the letdown, basically, as they get ready to take on a pretty good Miami team, to be honest? I was looking through the conference, and this is not the ACC from the past 4 or 5 years. Duke and Clemson are at the top of the league at 10-1 as we sit here at the beginning of the week. Virginia's 9-2, right behind them. NC State, who actually just got waxed yesterday by Louisville, if you want to touch on that, they got a freshman too. Mikael Brown went off in that game. They're 9-3, and they were riding a win streak going into that game against Louisville. Louisville's been banged up off and on all year. They're at 8-4. Carolina's at 7-3. This Miami team's at 7-3. This is a big game. This is a big game for the league. Well, in terms of seeding and everything else here, they're only going to see each other once. What's the key to the game for Carolina here against this Miami team from what you've seen so far this year?
A big part of it is know your personnel. The way the Tar Heels have failed to do that at times, like when Ibuka Okori put up 36 against Carolina on that trip to the West Coast. Miami is led by a couple of all ACC caliber players. At forward, it's Malik Renew, an Indiana transfer who's going to be on the all ACC team somewhere. And at guard, it's a Michigan transfer named Trey Donaldson. They are the two guys that make the Hurricanes go. Continuing our freshman theme, the Canes also have a star freshman forward named Shelton Henderson. That was the guy who was originally going to play at Duke, but then when Duke assistant coach Jay Lucas got the Miami job, Shelton Henderson switched to the Hurricanes. So he is another on that long list that I just wrote the article about of ACC freshmen worthy of note. Coming out of this weekend, man, I said to my Wolfpack friends and my Tar Heel friends, look, congratulations, NC State. You just won 6 straight games in the ACC for the first time in decades. A 6-game winning streak for the Wolfpack in the ACC hadn't happened since the 70s. I said, but you're going to Louisville. Prepare for not only a huge challenge, you might get whacked because State doesn't always play great defense, and Louisville can be very dynamic offensively. Sure enough, that's what happened.
Boy, do they.
Similarly, if you look at Miami's resume, they are the definition of a bubble team. They have a nice record. They're fairly high in the ACC standings, but when you start searching their wins for a signature victory, it is not there. So how are they viewing this game as players and coaches? How are the fans viewing it? This is the one that sets you apart on Selection Sunday. They're looking at the Tar Heels as their Super Bowl or one of their Super Bowls here down the stretch. So Carolina's going to get Miami's best shot. Carolina's defense has been leaky at times this year, and they have to set a tone defensively to get the players for Miami, the stars, out of their comfort zones, because you know how it works, man. An underdog, especially at home, if they start well, man, they start feeling free and easy and in the groove, and the fans get into it. If you put the clamps on an underdog at home and they start second-guessing themselves or getting anxious because the fans are getting anxious, that's how you win a game on the road against a fellow top half of the ACC team. The Wolfpack failed miserably to follow that script. It wasn't even close. Louisville drubbed them almost from the start. Carolina needs to start well if they're going to come home with a really good road win.
It feels like there's this this glut of about 4 teams scrambling for that 4th seed. Because again, I don't know if it's too much important. That double bye is what's so important. I don't know if it's so important to be the 1 seed going into this, but if you can be one of those top 4 seeds and get that double bye to advance in the ACC tournament, that seems to be the main prize, because everyone's kind of right around each other. That Carolina Duke game kind of brought Duke back down to the pack a little bit, in my opinion. I'm shocked that Clemson is 10-1 and 20-4 overall for what they're doing. They seem like they're going to be okay for the rest of the season. Virginia, we kind of thought that they were going to be good, and with the older freshmen that they have in there from overseas, They're at 9-2, and then you've got NC State at 9-3, Carolina at 7-3, Miami at 7-3, and Louisville at 8-4. That seems to be the four right there. One of them are going to emerge out as that last fourth seed. And if I had to choose, I would say probably either Carolina or State. Right. Well, actually, you know what? I don't know, because Louisville seems like they're getting healthy at the right time. So, and they've won 4 straight themselves. It's going to be a race, and all these teams play each other like over the next 2 weeks or so.
Head to head's going to matter, right? Because in your hypothetical, let's say Duke finishes first, and then Clemson and Virginia are 2 and 3 in some order. I think if you look at their current records and also their remaining schedules, Duke, Clemson, and Virginia have kind of put themselves in the best position for those 4 buys.
Mm-hmm.
So in case there's a tie for 4th, head-to-head matters, right? And UNC has to go to NC State later this month. UNC hosts Louisville later this month. So those results are going to carry a heck of a lot of weight. I'm trying to remember the whole Louisville-NC State head-to-head dynamic, but besides last night, if they play again, obviously Louisville just crushed them. No, they don't play again. So, those are the top candidates for that 4th and final slot, and I think you're right. I mean, it is a deeper league this year, so in theory, the champion could come from outside those top 4 seeds, the way we've seen happen a few times. But I know if I were a head coach, I would want those extra days of rest and preparation. It's a better, deeper league. Instead of talking about 4 or 5 NCAA tournament bids, which is what we've talked about like 4 or 5 years in a row at this point, for the ACC, now we're talking about 8 or 9. And that's a much more fun conversation and a reflection of the depth that'll be on stage when we go to Charlotte for the ACC tournament next month.
I was just about to say, because even after you get out of that group of 4 teams, State, Carolina, Miami, Louisville, they're going to battle for that 4th seed. Right below them is another little group of SMU, Virginia Tech, and Cal that are tough outs. At any given night, they can give you a game, and they're all sitting at around 500 in ACC play. But one of those teams might get in. To your point, 8 or 9 teams in the ACC. That means either SMU or Virginia Tech or Cal. One of those teams got in also. And then even at the bottom, Duke plays Pitt tonight at 9. Pitt is 2-9 in league play, 9-15 overall. I don't expect them to have any difficulties with Pitt tonight.
No.
You also have 15th ranked Virginia taking on Florida State tonight, and you've got Notre Dame, SMU at 7. Tomorrow, you got Cal at Syracuse and Virginia Tech taking on number 20 Clemson. So we'll start to see maybe even some more separation here from the top half of the league to the bottom half. And to your point, the past couple of years has been like Duke and somebody else, probably Louisville at the very top, and then there's like underneath it. And now it feels like the whole league is getting. It seems like they finally got serious about NIL and the portal and all that kind of stuff, and all these teams they said it last year that they were about to make a better effort towards doing this, and it feels good to see the ACC trying to do this. And now I don't think you can say the SEC is the best league in college basketball this year. I think it might be the ACC, and we'll see when it comes to tournament time. But before I get you out of here, the last little bit I want to get your opinion on, because you covered this man's career as well over the weekend before the Super Bowl. The Panthers got them one in the Hall of Fame. Panthers all-world linebacker Luke Kuechly gets elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame on his second attempt. I think he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer based off of what he did for his career. You followed him as his career with the Carolina Panthers. He played all 8 of his seasons with Carolina. 7 of those Pro Bowl years. I think he was a 3-time All-Pro. Him and Lawrence Taylor, who you mentioned earlier in the show, are the only 2 players ever in NFL history to win Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in their career. And for the NFL to have been here for over 100 years or whatnot in some shape or form, for it to only be Luke Kuechly and Lawrence Taylor that have done that is just amazing to me. Give me your thoughts on your memories of Luke Kuechly. I say it like he played 30 years ago. But give me your thoughts on Luke Kuechly and his recognition by the Hall.
It's hard to find a better example, in my opinion, of a guy who both maximized what his body had to offer and what his brain had to offer. And what I mean by that, there's some famous videos where Luke Kuechly's lining up, and just by the way the opponent's offense lines up, he is screaming to his teammates what play is about to happen.
It's so crazy.
I mean, that's not easy to do, right? No. Imagine you're kind of the quarterback of the defense, so to speak, You have a lot, just like a quarterback has even more variables in his head as he approaches the line of scrimmage. Whether it's a safety or a middle linebacker, there's a lot going on. And even as an athlete myself, way back in the day, I admired the people who were both physically imposing, but also just steps ahead of everybody else with their brain power and their game preparation, right? The will to win is important, but the will to prepare is incredibly important, and it's less common than the will to win. There's a whole lot of people that get out there and they empty the effort bucket. There are fewer people that prepare at such a level, whether it's a sports radio host, an athlete, or somebody else. Those who prepare and set themselves apart that way, and then can set themselves up just with their execution and their physicality and their IQ on game day. That's what makes you a legend. That's what makes you one of the best. And whether it was Luke Kuechly at Boston College, Luke Kuechly in, a Carolina Panthers uniform, Luke Kuechly in the community, right? Luke Kuechly as a citizen, like as a human being. I admire the guy from A to Z. And I was just incredibly happy for him and his best buddy, Greg Olson, when they had their exchange after learning the big news. It's just one of the great stories for anybody who cares about sports in our state.
Yeah, my co-host Jonathan Stewart on Believe in Panthers. Him, Greg Olson, and Luke Kuechly all coach middle school football in Charlotte for Charlotte Christian. I think Greg's the head coach. Stu does running backs.
That's a heck of a staff.
Luke's the defensive coordinator. And I joke with Stu all the time, like, do y'all ever look over at the dads across the field when y'all get off the bus and they're just like, why do we know that? Oh no, like it's how do you? It's like the greatest middle school coaching staff ever assembled or whatnot. But he told me last night when we were doing Believe in Panthers, we were talking about Luke, and he was like, he teaches the kids defense, but of course he dumbs it down so they can understand it. And I was like, that's one of the things I love about Luke Post's career. When he's on the Panthers radio network or whatever, and he's actually calling a game. We were saying this about Tony Romo when he first started. That was like, oh, it's so different. He's actually kind of predicting what's going to happen, and then it happens. Then it started getting annoying a little bit because he was doing it every play. We were kind of calm down, Tony Romo. Luke doesn't really do that. He explains after it's over what happened in such clear, concise terms that anyone can understand what just happened. He doesn't talk to you like you played football too. My wife would be able to understand it. I understand it, even though I understand football concepts. He says it without being condescending, I'm smarter than everybody.
Right.
But you can tell he's smarter than everybody. When he talks, it just comes out. And I'm so happy for him. I asked you last night if he'd ever been to Canton before, and he hadn't. My wife's family's from Cleveland, so we drive past it on 77, going to visit up there all the time. And people don't seem to realize when you watch the Hall of Fame game in August, that football game that comes on during the ceremony, the stadium they're playing in is literally this big, in real life. When you drive past it on the TV, it looks huge, but Fawcett Stadium's it seats 5,000 people. It feels like it's a little small stadium with a parking lot, and then the Hall of Fame is right beside it. And it's a cool experience. If you've never been, I always tell people you should go at least once if you're a huge football fan and go check it out, because it's not just the NFL; it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So there's all these different leagues and stuff from back in the day where you can see all these records and stuff too. Follow DG on X at David Glenn Show for the latest. Again, I'm about to go check out that article you said you wrote about the freshman right now, because again, I can't think of another freshman class in this millennia that can compare. I thought maybe 2019, but even that felt top. That was Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett and those guys, but that was kind of top heavy. Once you got out of the first 5 or 6, I don't think it was the same depth as what this year's freshman class is. And wasn't Cooper Flagg supposed to be in this class? Didn't he reclassify up?
Originally he was, yes.
Smart man. I can see now why he did, because at the time I was like, why is he classifying up? He's going to be fine either way. Would Cooper Flagg still be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft if he was in this year's NBA draft?
It's a good question.
He'd
have a chance.
I think he'd still have a shot, but
yeah,
I don't think Conklin will be the 4th pick overall.
Maybe not.
I don't know, but we're seeing what they're doing now in the league, and they're both killing it. So we will not be on tomorrow. We will be back on Friday. Now that football is over, we go down to two shows a week. So it'll be Tuesday, Friday. Matt Alquiz will be with me from Hornets on SI, the beat writer for the Charlotte Hornets. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about the Charlotte Hornets. We'll look back at the trade deadline and just how good can this Hornets team be. And by then we should have an idea of suspensions for the players that were in the fight from last night against the Pistons, who are the 1 seed currently in the East. They're 5 games up on everybody else. So the Hornets giving everybody a game right now. And I'm hoping to get down there and watch them the next month or so now that football and stuff's clearing out. So we'll see about that here in the next couple of weeks. But we'll be back on Friday, 12:30 live with Matt and maybe someone else. We'll announce that before we get on. But for David Glenn, go follow the North Carolina Sports Network on YouTube as well, one of the fastest growing channels on YouTube. Go check them out over there. Great quality work. For DG, I'm Desmond Johnson. We'll see you on Friday. There are brand new Believe in Panthers and Believe in Hills Hoops episodes available for you guys that are already out. So you can go check those out as well. We'll see you guys later on in the week.